Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies, bringing you something a little bit different again. I know we do say that at the start of a lot of videos, but that's because I like to play around with my videos and try and make interesting and unique content. You guys really liked my Indominus series last week, so yeah, let's try and do something again with this video. So I know that you guys are going to get bombarded with Leviathan content from pretty much every creator over the course of the next week. Yeah, and I, of course, am one of them. I do have a copy of Leviathan, and I will, of course, be bringing you content on that. But I thought I would give you a few days of respite from Indominus instead of going straight into Leviathan. Like I said, a lot of creators will be giving you a lot of content around that. So I decided to give you kind of like a week's break and just give you a couple of funky extra videos based on other things. Just so you know, you don't get totally burnt out on Leviathan before you guys get to get your hands on it. So yesterday I did the video on this Duderson here for Archvillain Games. He was really cool, really liked him. And then for this video I had a kind of an interesting idea, and let me show you what I mean by that. So this is basically where I sit there. This is my backdrop. This plinth here, which is now doesn't have a miniature, usually has my Johnny Silverhand figurine that stands there proudly because I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk 2077. Unfortunately, him and his stand don't get on. He has fallen off that stand like, I don't know, 3 times now. And every time he does, he knocks down a bunch of miniatures and it's like, fill me once, shame on you, fill me for the next 7 times. I really should do something about it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take him out of there, but then there's going to be a big gap in my display behind me. So I thought to myself, I think it's time I make something for myself, something that I personally produced, and put it there. And I've always quite liked 40k, as you know. I love Space Marines, as you know. So I thought I'd start with some Space Marine weaponry. So on today's video, I'm going to try and recreate a Space Marine bolt pistol using my 3D printer, getting that put together and getting that painted up and added into my backdrop. So stick around, guys, and let me see if I manage to pull this off. But before I get into the video, huge thank you to all of my active patrons, all of you new patrons as well. It has been a very good few weeks for my patronage. So a huge thank you to all of you guys. If you guys are enjoying my content and you want to see more of it, patrons get an extra video every single week. So that's 52 extra videos a year just for them. And you also get access to a private Discord server where you can hang out with me and talk about your hobby on a daily basis. All right, guys, without further ado, let's get printing, building, and painting. Okay, so I guess first thing was first, and that was indeed to actually 3D print the parts that I needed. To do this, I used my Artillery Sidewinder Mark II. Now, just to be brutally honest with everybody here, Artillery did very kindly send me this printer to try out and review, but there's no stigma for you should buy this or I have to say anything nice about it. I just get to basically do what I want with it and say what I want with it. So some of the things I will say about this printer is it was extremely quiet compared to my older PLA printers. This is a huge benefit for me, as I used to have to basically set up a print before I went to bed at night and let it run through the night. I couldn't work with the printer in the same room I was trying to work in. This is not the case with the Artillery. Super quiet, which is amazing. It has quite a large build volume, 300 by 300 by 400 high, which is quite a large scale, which allowed me to print, for instance, the rest of these pieces all in one print. And as you can see, there's a lot of room there if I need to print anything else. So I was super happy with that. If you have never engaged with a PLA 3D printer before, this particular model is extremely easy to get going with, as all you need to do is tighten 4 screws and plug in 3 cables. That's it, and the printer is ready to go. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about this printer, I will leave links to it below, including a coupon that will give you €50 off if you do decide to purchase it. It will cost you nothing extra. So yeah, that's enough about that 3D printer. This is what it gave me, and I was quite happy with the results. As you can see, the things are silky smooth. The only thing I think I did wrong was I left the bed a little bit too hot, so I had a little bit of curling where it connected, which I think if I'd have cooled the bed down by 10 degrees, I wouldn't have had that at all. But that was easy to work around. I'll do some filling and filing later on. No big deal. So the first thing I did was clean off all of the prints, removed any extra bits and pieces, and got the 3D print actually assembled fully. When I managed to get it all assembled, this is what I was left with. Like I said, I've done a lot of PLA 3D printing before. This is super clean. I was very happy with the result, and I was then very excited to get this project underway with the construction. Now, like I said, I think I left the print bed on a little bit too much, which left me with that little gap. So all I'm going to use is a little bit of filler for that. I think I went a little bit overboard on the filler, but that's okay. The idea was to go a little bit overboard with the filler so that I could then come back in and file it down afterwards, which would then give me a nice smooth point for painting. So you can see I'm applying more than I probably need along the top, and then I'm just going to massage it in with my finger, adding a little bit of water to my finger so the putty doesn't stick to my finger, it stays on the miniature. I like to usually work in kind of circular motions with this, just so it does feed into all of the gaps. But everyone has their preferred method for cleaning up the 3D prints and getting gaps filled. If I had a filled primer, I would have used it, but I didn't. So this was it after I'd filed all of it down. As you can see, silky smooth, and all the lines are gone. And now it's ready to apply some paint. So, to get me started on the right track, I'm going to spray the entire thing black. I'm going to give it a nice heavy coat of black spray. After I'm finished admiring it, apparently. I really do like how it turned out. It felt right in my hands. I had a good bit of weight to it, and I was super pleased with the result. So like I said, black spray went on all over the top. And then from here, I used lead belcher spray to add a silver dusting to some of the other parts of it, just to basically get the project going and give me a little bit of a head start. So lead belcher spray, as you see, I'm wearing gloves to protect my hand, which will hold the piece as I spray. After the silver was sprayed, I decided that then I'm going to add a little bit more silver to it. So I got the Army Painter Shining Silver, applied that to a palette, and then used a sponge to dab it on over all the other parts that need to be metallic. Just add a little bit more variation to the color. I think I've already done a pretty good job with the black and silver as it is, to make sure that the silver base coat isn't dull and boring. I didn't want it to look like I didn't want this thing to look like a toy, if you know what I mean, which I think there's a real... If you use large flat colors, it is going to look like a toy, and that's not what I'm going to do. So I'm going to work hard to try and avoid that, to really add some texture to the model. Is this a model? Does it count as a model? Prop? Cosplay prop? What do you call this thing? I also do hope YouTube doesn't in any way, shape or form think that this is a mechanically firing weapon of any sort and tries to demonetize or take the video down. This is just solid plastic all the way through. It is just a display piece. It is no more dangerous than a plastic Lego brick. So, not that Lego bricks aren't dangerous. I've stood on one before. They're terrifying. So like I said, sponging on the silver in all the bits that I wanted to be, and then moved straight over and started painting the casing of it with a nice bright red. I like the traditional look of bolt pistols with the silver and the red casing. I've done grey casings before and a few other colours to match armies, but the red seems to be one that always stands out to me. As you can see, I'm using quite a large brush, as well, it's quite a large piece. I was really happy with how all of this turned out. You'll see with the final result in a few minutes of how the whole thing turned out as a whole. And I think I definitely want to expand my arsenal of Space Marine weaponry and other 40k weaponry in the future, and really deck out my backdrop with some really nice pieces. But I will leave it up to you as what you guys think the next thing I should print and paint should be. It can be a las gun, it could be a bolt gun, it could be a chain sword, it could be a power sword. There's definitely a million and one things it could be. It doesn't have to be Imperium. We can definitely go to something else, some Xenotech maybe. And here's me engrossed in watching more Squidmarm videos. As you can see, that's what's currently playing in the background on my channel. Oh well. So, like I said, I took my time, made sure I got a solid coat of red across the entire, including going in with a smaller brush to get the edges and around any of the other areas where I'm trying not to hit with the silver. Even holding this thing was a bizarre experience, trying to figure out where to hold it so I could get kind of smooth and nice angles with a paintbrush, and I wasn't putting myself in too awkward a position to make that work. After that, it was time to add more texture to the red, and for that I jumped over to some of my Chimera colors. I used the red and the orange Chimera paints, which are of course like pure pigment, their own real paints for stuff like this. Then I grabbed my Artist Opus dry brush and did my usual stippling technique across the main body, the red parts of this. just to add a bit more color and a bit more texture to it. You can see front half to the back half are quite different now. When I jump up to the orange Chimera paint, I'm in no way, shape or form just going pure orange over the top. I'm adding a bit of orange to the palette, mixing that in with the Chimera red that's already there to give me a slightly brighter tone, and then stippling that on in some other bits and pieces around edges and yeah, basically just, like I said, adding more texture. So as you can see, I'm not going to go as heavy as I did on the previous stipple. Every time you do this kind of technique, the stippling should get kind of less and less and lighter as you go across the body. Now luckily this piece already does have a nice bit of texture across it, that kind of cross hatch design, which I really like. And I basically just follow the same routine. I hit corners and flat areas a little bit easier. And after that, it was time to add some silver. So I just wanted to add some chipping and weathering to the red panels of the bolt pistol. And as you see, I'm kind of going directionally away from them. So maybe small arms fire has pinged off this rifle, or he's used it to hit something before, which I've heard Space Marines do in books many times. And then just basically the basic wear and tear of a weapon that belongs in a combat zone. All the edges are going to be scuffed and scratched and worn. And with the addition of that, the model is starting to look, like I said, not a toy. It's starting to look like something real and something that I would be proud to, carry around a convention or display in the backdrop of my videos. Use as a prop in Twitch, which apparently seems to be a thing that people are saying I should do, which is kind of annoying. I add some black pigment powder into the crevices, cracks, adding once again that kind of gun oil and soot, and the amount of gunpowder that's being fired off from these things is quite a lot. And across an entire war zone, you can imagine that it's going to be settled into nooks and crannies. Now these guys will of course clean, disassemble, repair, do everything they need with their weapons after a campaign. But during a campaign, these things are going to get worn and weathered and dirty. And that's what I'm going to use here with the weathering powder to achieve that. Now obviously weathering powder doesn't stick by itself. You need to add something to it to help it stick. On some things I never do the varnish that's required to hold it on if it's something that I'm not going to be touching a lot. But obviously this is something that's supposed to be put in your hands and moved around, and I don't want to just leave the powder sitting on the miniature. So I'm of course going to seal it in. And how I'm going to do that is to make sure that I knock off any excess with the brush. Very quick and easy step. And then I'm going to come in with Minotaur varnish and apply that all over the pistol. As you can see, I've got the weathered down pistol, looks well, lots of muzzle burn. I've got Minotaur varnish, and to be very careful, I have my face mask. Okay guys, I set out today with an ambitious project and I think I nailed it. This is my new bolt pistol, which I will proudly put in my backdrop as show my support for Space Marines and everything to do with Space Marines. This was a very different video for me. I know I've been tapping into 3D printed content a little bit more the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months really, and that is due to the fact that 3D printing is only going to be getting more and more prevalent around the community as time goes on, and I want that to be a big part of my channel moving forward. Hence why you see me do at least one 3D printed video every single week. I haven't really messed around with FDM printers, even though I have been printing with FDM printers for years now. On my old Anycubic i3 Mega up there, I've printed I don't know how many pieces of scenery with it. So obviously this is the first one that got sent to me, and I wanted to show it with you guys here today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this very different video. I'm really pleased with the result. If you're interested in the printer that I showed off in this video, I'll leave links to it below. You can check it out again. Thanks for sticking around to the very end. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like. Subscribe if you aren't already subscribed to the channel. It does make a huge difference. And if you have any questions from me about Warhammer, 3D printing, or anything else in general, please put in the comments below and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.